Hello all, welcome to Lalita's channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the topic communication and its modes. The contents are importance of modes of communication and 10 modes of communication. Communication. Communication can be explained as a process of transmitting information from one person, place or group to another. It is through communication that we share messages with each other. There are three integral elements of communication. Those are sender, message and receiver. By this we can understand communication is exchanging of information from one person to another. There are three parties: sender, message and the receiver. Sender will send the message and the receiver will receive it. Importance of modes of communication. Why we need to study modes of communication? It is very important because it maintains the flow of conveying information. It helps in devising plans and strategies for reaching a goal. It builds cordial relations and soft skills soft. Decision making becomes more effective and less time consuming. Problem solving and conflict management becomes very easier. So these are the 5 important elements that why we need to study the communication. And what are the modes of communication? A mode is the means of communicating, the medium through which communication is processed. And the 10 modes are interpretive communication, interpersonal communication, presentational communication, linguistical communication, gestural communication, oral communication, visual communication, spatial communication, multimodal communication, various cultural, intercultural modes of communication. First, we will study about interpretive communication. It is also known as one-way communication. In this mode, the information conveyed by the sender is interpreted by the receiver in its original form. The target has to understand the message in both written and spoken form, keeping various aspects in mind. For example, in a class, the learners may not understand every word said by the teacher, but they are expected to understand the main crux of the topic. So, in this one-way communication or interpretive communication, here the most concentration is exchanging data and information from one to another. Like a teacher will passes his lecture, makes a student to understand the main theme of the topic. So that is what the major role played by the interpretive communication. Interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is the process by which people exchange information through verbal and non-verbal messages. Examples: personal interview, telephonic conversations, interactive sessions, debates, emails, text messages. So in this interpersonal communication, it is the process of exchanging data and information via verbal or non-verbal messages. So this is not a mediated communication mode, but it interacts more with written, oral and non-verbal communication forms. And the most term is applied only to spoken communication taking place between two or more individuals on a personal or face-to-face interaction. And you can see the examples I quoted here. Third one is presentational communication. It is another type of communication of one-way communication which facilitates interpretation by members of another group where no direct opportunity for the active negotiation of meaning between members of the two group exist. With this mode of communication, a person is speaking to an audience that can be rehearsed, pre-prepared or scripted. By this, we can understand that it is one of the one-way communication which facilitates interpretation by the members of every group in the people. So in this mode, generally person speaks to the audience after being rehearsed, scripted or pre-prepared. And the highlights you can quote here is it is a well-versed scripted speech, and there is no direct opportunity for engagement with larger audience based in the communication mode. So that is presentational communication. For example, you can take a public mass or public political speech. These are all presentational communication. Linguistical or alphabetical communication. As one of the popular modes of communication, linguistical or alphabetical communication mainly refers to written or spoken communication, where the sender conveys the message through writing on a paper or through speaking. You can take the examples like here is text messages, audio messages, emails, speech, notes and list. So this is also one of the mode of communication. The word specifies linguistic or alphabetical. So it is mostly in the form of verbal or written. So it is most popular mode of communication because it is passing the message through spoken or written. So for example, audio messages, text messages, emails will be passed through linguistic. Through writing we are going to pass the information. Next one is gestural communication. It has quite essential emphasis on body language and physical movements to communicate messages. Sign language is the best example of gestural mode of communication, as those who can't talk or hear are able to communicate best through their gestures and have their own set of unique languages to converse in. In this gestural communication, the major role played by the parts are body language and the physical movements what we are using on. The best example is the sign language. One who cannot hear or talk basically will communicate through the sign language. So that is what the the gestural communication deals with. Next one is oral communication. As the name suggests, oral communication uses audio mode of convey messages, whether it is through sounds or spoken audio. The speaker's voice and pronunciation need to be clear and precise with no background noise. So for example, radio will come with a clear voice. Audio messages, music, recording, songs, audiobook. So the name suggests it is oral communication. Through the words we are going to deliver the communication. So the name suggests that the communication mode uses mostly through audio mode in order to convey the message and to communicate. It can use either sounds or spoken audios for communication. Here the speaker's voice and pronunciation must be precise and it should be very clear and should not be any noise, means zero background noise. So these are oral communication. Seventh one is visual communication. It can simply term non-verbal communication as it comprises visual messages from the sender to the receiver. It is one of the oldest modes of communication. When the ancient people didn't know a language to communicate with, it is through pictures, drawings and symbols that they were able to talk and converse with each other. Examples are pictures, videos, chats, graphs, symbols, etc. So this is a communication where you can able to refer with non-verbal mode because it involves visual messages from the sender to the receiver. By using the pictures, drawings, symbols, generally they share the views, and in order to communicate they usually draw pictures, like you can play pictorial presentation or pictorial representations. Basically these are games comes from visual communication because they are showing through pictures and the receiver has to identify the message passed by the sender. So it is basically the form of communication which uses pictures, videos, charts, graphs, symbols, etc. Eighth one is spatial communication. It elaborates upon use of physical space in the text as well as its overall structure to convey certain messages and meanings. The physical layout of any written text is deliberately designed to make it look a certain way and adhere to a particular theme. Websites also use this unique mode of communication in choosing a certain font, style, design or layout to make any website user friendly or more interactive. So whatever we are seeing in the website, through spatial communications it is provided because it will use the physical space in text. The spaces used in text is also involved in spatial communication. The physical layout of any written text is designed precisely for making it look in a certain way and associate with any particular theme. So websites use this mode of communication to pass their message to the audience. Now this is very popular. Multimodal communication. This is also the popular mode, can simply refer to as communication through varied modes such as verbal, written, gestures. So it involves all the communications whatever we speak before. Linguistical, alphabetical, gestural, visual, oral, spatial. So these are all involved in multimodal. Multimodal means involving all different types of modes. So different types of modes like alphabetical, written communication, gestural by using gestures, visual through pictures, oral, audio, spatial, physical coordination or physical spaces. So that is multimodal communication. Using many modes of communication is multimodal communication. 10th one and the last one, various cultural and intercultural modes of communication. Through these cultural modes of communication are very specific to each area and culture. It can be symbolic usage of actions, body language, etc. The culture of a person is not just what they eat or wear, but also how they communicate. So the major essence of this particular communication is the person how they are communicating is their culture. So here we are specifying the culture of a person by their communication skills. So this is one of the popular mode of communication modes. So these are all the 10 modes of communication, and it is very important to understand these topics. So thank you, all the best. Subscribe for more videos.